Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I'd like to talk about why it's important that MGTOW never ever becomes a group. Now first of all, let us define our terms, shall we? What does MGTOW stand for? Well, simply speaking, it's an anagram. Each letter represents the first letter of a word, in this case, men going their own way, or MGTOW for short. Now personally, I hate anagrams because they can become something else other than what they actually are, which are just some letters representing some words or phrase. Like MGTOW, for example, which stands for men going their own way. It's not a word in and of itself and has no meaning outside of the phrase that it represents, which is men going their own way, which is a phrasal verb whose definition is essentially men walking away from serious relationships with women, relationships that enslave men to women and women's wants and needs. That's it. Just as the verb run means to move at greater speed, something faster and different than walking. That's it. That's all men going their own way are. Men going their own way. It isn't a group or an ideology or a cult or a movement. Just by going by the name, it's obvious it's about individuality. Each man is going his own way. That's the key word. His own way. Own is key there. His own personal way. The way that is his, that he literally owns. That means that each man has his own path that he must walk. And he has to walk it alone. Because it's his. And only one man can walk his own path. Because he's the owner of that path. No one else can walk it with him. And now if another man is walking a path that seems similar, or seems like it's even the same, well, that really doesn't matter because there's still two different paths, regardless of how much they might actually resemble each other. Two things may look the same, but they're still two things, not one. Hence different and not at all the same thing. Men going their own way are not a collective. They're not a noun, not a thing. It's one man going his own way. That there happen to be many who are doing so in no way makes them the same. That they might be going their own way for similar reasons is also beside the point. They are different men with different paths to walk in life, and it's important that they walk them alone. Now, yes, MGTOW could become a movement, and for some people it already is. In fact, I made a couple of videos a while back addressing these very issues, titled, Is MGTOW a Cult? And cults and cult leaders within MGTOW. In those videos, I addressed how the common traits MGTOW men share could develop into a standalone ideology if one isn't careful. Hence, I'm not going to go into further detail here. I suggest you watch the videos in question to get more context. Just go to my channel and click on playlists. You'll find them both under my original content playlist. Now, as I was saying, MGTOW, yeah, it could become a movement. After all, most men going their own way are doing so for similar reasons. They have seen firsthand what women are really like and want no more to do with them in any serious way. The instances that open their eyes, well, those might differ, but the realizations themselves, well, they're much the same. That's one way that MGTOW could become a movement, a group just like feminism with rules, tenets, dogma, and teachings about how to live your life. Men going their own way for the most part, well, they share similar views because they've shared similar life experiences. Men going their own way, well, they have a lot in common in regards to how they view women. They share a great many of the same ideas on how to deal with women as well as how to solve the problems that women and feminism have created. Yet another thing that could very easily become a foundation stone for the establishment of a group. And of course, movements and groups provide a sense of belonging and purpose. They make one feel special. I'm part of something greater than myself. Yeah, there's something seductive about belonging to a group that has a clear message and purpose. You know, it's tempting to want to join a group. Not only do they provide a sense of belonging, which deep down most of us crave, but they also offer what many believe to be a strategic advantage, that being strength in numbers. Yeah, if we become a large group, we're that much stronger, that much more able to influence the world. We can win if we just come together and fight as a single collective. How'd that work out for the men's rights movement? They thought the same thing. Yeah, let's get together and promote men's rights. Let's form a group the same way feminists did. Let's use strength in numbers to try and push our thoughts and ideas. We'll be so much more effective as a group than if we tried running around to push our messages as individuals. After all, it worked for feminists. Why can't it work for us as well? Oh, some women want to join us? Great. By all means, let them join. If they say they're for men's rights, then that's a feather in our cap. Women walking alongside us in solidarity? That can only be good for our cause. Yeah, it worked for feminism, eh? That's because when feminism started to really pick up in the late 19th and early 20th century, those ladies didn't have men claiming to be feminists, then trying to join them so as to destroy them from within. No. No man wanted anything to do with those suffragettes, nor did they want anything to do with any female organization promoting women's equal rights. No way. They would have looked like fools and been ridiculed and perhaps beaten for betraying their fellow men and trying to destroy the very foundations of Western society. And generally speaking, that's how men work. We're aggressive, and we tend to confront our problems and our enemies. Yes, sometimes we use subterfuge, but as men, we don't have the natural defenses that women have. Namely, that men feel like they need to protect women, not attack or try to hurt them. Men, you see, want to please, not displease women. And men of that time, 100 plus years ago, also didn't want to see women as a threat, and they also wanted to protect them and please them. And today, that's still the case for most men. Even after 100 plus years of feminism and seeing what feminism does. This want, nay need on the part of most men to protect women, along with their viewing women as weak and helpless, well, it grants women protections that men just don't have. That's the power of the vagina, a power we men are lacking. For you see, men, well, we give away our seed and our private parts too readily. We regard our sexual organs and what we have to offer sexually as having little to no value. In turn, we have no bargaining power in this regard because what we have to offer is far too readily available. Women, on the other hand, have great bargaining power. For you see, their sex and sexual organs are a high-priced commodity. Even today, women guard their so-called treasures and don't give them up with the same ease as a man. Yes, their jewels are far easier to get than they were 100 plus years ago, when generally speaking, you had to marry a woman to get access to her honeypot. That said, even with as easy as women have become today, sexually speaking, they are still nowhere near as free with their goods and services as a man is, granting a few exceptions, of course. So, women have men's natural inclination to protect them, as well as our natural want to gain their approval and make them happy. They have men's natural desire to seek validation from them, as well as his want for what they have, namely, their vaginas. What have men got? Zero. Either a woman is a diehard feminist and claims she doesn't want men, or the case, which is more often true, is that their views or their looks make them undateable and they just can't get a man. Same difference, really. Or they're decent to hot-looking chicks and can get men easily. And by the way, most women can get a man easily, even if they are fat and ugly, if they so choose. Even fatties can get men, as there are plenty of men out there with fat fetishes that can easily be found online. So in the end, women have everything a thirsty, weak, slave to his emotions man might want. But unless we are one of the top 20% of guys earnings-wise, we have nothing women want. Hence, nothing we can use to manipulate them and get our own way. Lovely. Add to that the biological need on most men's parts to want and seek a woman's approval and validation, and you have a situation that favors women and heavily disfavors men. Hence, not only did men never have any interest in infiltrating women's organizations back in the day, but even if they had, they wouldn't have had any ability to manipulate those women in the first place. The same couldn't be said of women, either back then or now. And with men and women being told that they're equal and that they're the same, that they are nothing more than men women and women men who just happen to have slightly different packaging, is it any wonder that men of today are at so much risk for manipulation at the hands of a woman? I mean, hell, Men no longer understand what women are really like. At least not the majority of men. Therefore, when those men's rights guys started their little group, their little movement, their little organization, and some women said, "Hey, can we join you?" Well, the men's eyes lit up, and they jumped at the chance. Of course! Because they couldn't fathom that any woman would want to join their group and claim to be pro-men's rights just so they could destroy it from within. Because they themselves, well, they would never do anything like that. And men and women are the same, don't you know? So no woman would ever do that because I, as a man, would never do something like that, said the guy or guys to themselves when they allowed women to join. And look what happened. Those women used men's natural want to please them to take over the MRA movement. Soon, the women were the ones calling the shots. And like good little men in this SJW, gynocentric day and age, the men acquiesced. Because sadly, these men were more tradcon than they were red-pilled. And they just didn't understand the real nature of women. Most of them still don't. But red-pilled or no, it wouldn't have made much difference. Because it's in a woman's nature to divide men. That's what they do. They're attention whores, and everything has to be about them, them, them. Even if their main intention when joining was not to destroy your group, a group that would disenfranchise women, they'll still seek to lead it away from its goals and make it all about them. In turn, they'll take over and do so simply because they can. Because women can't help but use their charms to manipulate men to gain power and influence. They just can't. This is something that men used to know. And they also used to know where a woman's place really was. And they would make sure that she stayed in it. Heck, even most women from the past knew what a woman's place was and would shame a woman for stepping outside of it. However, nowadays, women believe their place is everywhere and anywhere that a man is, and they'll invade a male space just to prove to you that you can't keep them out. And once they're in, well, say goodbye to whatever it was you were trying to accomplish as a group. Because women, they will divide you, take control, and conquer you. As for men, well, most men are easily fooled. Even men who claim to be red-pilled MGTOW men. Many a so-called anti-feminist and non-feminist are trying to or have successfully infiltrated many an MRA group, if not physically, then psychologically, with their messages of egalitarianism and soft feminism, keeping these so-called red-pilled men slightly blue-pilled and therefore open to manipulation by those women who claim to be pro-men. And that's the real danger of creating any sort of MGTOW group or movement. As I talked about in my video, Why Women Invade Male Spaces, women simply must go where they think they are not wanted or should not be when it comes to places men go. They can't help themselves. And since men today are by and large so clueless about female nature as opposed to men in the past, they simply allow women carte blanche whenever women come into their space so as to make them happy, all the while not knowing that these women's main goals are all self-serving and in no way geared towards men's best interests. Because no matter what they might say, deep down most of these chameleon women claiming to have men's best interests at heart are only looking to cash in some way. Or they want to be the center of attention and create divisiveness so as to feed their own egos, or they want to outright destroy whatever group they may join if it's for the disenfranchisement of men. They have to. They have too much to lose if they don't. That's part of why they hate MGTOW so much. We threaten their hold on power in the West, and many MGTOW men are red-pilled enough to the reality of women that it has women scared. This fear, it makes women want to destroy us, just like they destroyed the MRA movement. Yes, convince the men you are a rare Nawalt, that you care about men and want to help, and then they let you join. That as a woman, you add credibility to the men's movement by joining it. Then the woman destroys it just by being a woman. This is why men going their own way can never be allowed to become a group. It can never be allowed to become anything resembling an organization. an organization with dogma and offices and authorities and funding from all sorts of different sources. Because the moment it does that, we men will have been collectivized, and we leave ourselves open to manipulation from various sources and ultimately to destruction. Never put all your eggs into one basket. Instead, decentralize. That's how you win a war where you're surrounded by your enemies, where any large-scale collective uprising would be easily seen, identified as a threat, and quickly dealt with. If we were to become a group, an organization, one blow could cripple and destroy MGTOW, as it did with the men's rights movement. Because as red-pilled as many of you may think you are, I see far too many of you standing up for certain women who say all the right things. Women who claim to be anti-feminists, but are really just paying lip service to some of the things both MRAs and MGTOW men say, so as to get our support in the form of money for their lectures and their books. They are not non-feminists or anti-feminists. No, they're just against third-wave feminism because it makes them look bad. But don't be fooled. They hold most of the same views. They simply know that expressing those views won't fill their pockets. So instead, they play a more moderate role, what I call soft feminism, all the while feeding men's egos and talking about men's rights and men's issues. That right there should clue you into the fact that something is wrong. Women doing this, not men, women. They're just feminists in sheep's clothing, using men's issues to make a buck. They could not give a crap about us, and they don't actually want things to change in terms of their rights. And some are actually against men in a very hardcore way and just want to infiltrate any men's movement that they can just so they can destroy it. And there are just too many of these semi-red-pilled men out there. Men who believe this nonsense of some women being on their side. And they would be all too eager to let them join any MGTOW organization that was codified. Yes, suddenly, MGTOW goes from being an anagram for what is nothing more than a phrasal verb to a noun defining an actual organization, a group with real-world membership that anyone who values the ideology that would have to be codified to identify the group's goals could join. Anyone, even women. Because it would no longer be a man going his own way, but instead a group that identifies itself by an ideology. And with that ideology, many a woman would claim to be committed to it. And many a MGTOW man who wasn't fully red-pilled would jump at the chance to accept these smooth-tongued anti-feminists and non-feminist identifying broads into their ranks. They would want to believe in that rare Nawalt. And they'd also want to believe that having women as members would make them more credible and persuasive as a whole. Hey, look! We have female members. We are more real than you all thought. We have women who support us. Now you'll have to listen to us. If this ever happens, it would be the death knell for men going their own way. MGTOW can only succeed as an individual movement, one where each man is doing his own thing, going his own way, and if he so chooses, spreading his red pill knowledge when it's safe and convenient for him to do so. Because such a method of dissemination is impossible for the global elites and their useful idiots to stop. There's just too many of us. Thousands, hundreds of thousands. How do you find us? How do you defeat us? We could be anyone, anywhere, at any time, spreading little red-pilled kernels of wisdom and truth. However, if we organize and become a group like feminism, we make ourselves a target that can be identified and easily destroyed, or rendered useless, as MRAs rendered themselves essentially useless when they allowed women to join them. Men and women are not the same. And just because something worked for women doesn't mean it'll work for men. We men simply don't have the tools that women do to manipulate them en masse, nor do we have the social programming of the past 60 years on our side. a programming that has made men totally clueless when it comes to women's true natures, blind to the threat they represent, and has programmed far too many men to want to kowtow and serve women. My fellow men going your own way, heed my words. Collectivism is our enemy in this battle. Organizing, coming together, it would be our doom. We as men going our own way cannot, must not join together in any real way outside of the internet. The way we are doing things now is the right way. I see that now. I see that very clearly because now we have them frustrated and unable to figure out how to attack us. They don't know who we are, and they can't invade our space and destroy us from within because we have no space in the objective reality, and we want nothing to do with them in the virtual space. If that ever changes, if we ever take things to a real-world space and organize, we're doomed. Keep doing what you're doing. Spread red pill knowledge whenever you can. It'll take time, but it's better than the alternative. When you're in occupied territory, you can't organize into large groups to attack the enemy. Your numbers are too few, and you'd risk being wiped out entirely. Not only that, but you leave yourself wide open to infiltrators, something we know all too well would happen if we organized. No. You work silently and anonymously from within to destroy the enemy, using their own tactics against them. In this case, by systematically attacking their ideology and spreading truth until you've done enough damage to cripple them. Bleed them dry slowly. Fight a war of attrition. Make it too expensive for them to continue fighting. This is how you win a war of ideas, as well as a war of occupation. Red pill enough of the men out there, and you take away your enemy's ability to continue fighting you by converting their human wallets to your side, or by red-pilling them from the very start so that they never become such in the first place. Remain hidden as much as possible, men. Attack when the opportunity presents itself. Do so with your ideas, and watch the tide turn slowly in your favor. This won't be a war quickly won. The indoctrination that's been going on, which has turned generations of men into weaklings who live to serve women, has been going on for 60, 70 years or more. And it won't be solved overnight, nor will it be solved by coming together in groups, or creating ideologies, or organizing the same way feminists did. No. It'll be won with right knowledge, right ideas, and truth. That is how we will beat them. That is how we will win. Though it may take 100 years, we will be victorious because we have truth and we have right on our sides. However, all that will vanish in a heartbeat and be destroyed the moment we become a movement with an ideology and a group identity. At that point, we will have become nothing more than an organization open to infiltration, destruction from within, and any huckster out there who can manipulate said ideology to suit their purposes. Never forget this. Stay an individual. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.